President Rodrigo Duterte says he will step down if a leader like Senator Cheese Escudero or former Senator Bongbong Marcos could assume the presidency. Duterte says, quote, "If you follow the succession and Robredo takes over, she can't hack it. If there were someone else in the likes of Escudero or Bongbong Marcos." Duterte rejects Robredo as his successor even if the 1987 Constitution states that she would replace him if he steps down. Duterte's vocal support for Marcos's abilities as a leader are in contrast to his remarks about Robredo, who he has called incompetent. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says Duterte won't resign as long as Robredo is the vice president and thus his constitutional successor. Roque says Duterte respects the 1987 Constitution, that's why he won't resign. Roque says the president will only resign if a fitting successor is ready to take his place. Budget Secretary Benjamin Diokno says Congress has the prerogative to reject a cash-based budgeting system, but this will not stop the Budget Department from implementing it. Diokno says, quote, "We don't need the approval of Congress to implement this thing." Diokno explains the Constitution does not specify a certain type of budgeting system to be implemented. For the longest time, agencies' budgets followed two-year obligation-based budgeting. The proposed shift to a cash-based budget would limit contractual obligations and disbursing payments to goods delivered and services rendered within the fiscal year. Diokno says lawmakers want a higher budget for 2019 in time for the upcoming midterm elections. On Tuesday, Diokno met with Senate Finance Committee Chairperson Lauren Legarda and House Appropriations Committee Chairperson Carlo Nograles to discuss the budget deadlock after deliberations were suspended in both chambers. Diokno is still hopeful that a cash-based budget for 2019 will be passed, with the Senate expressing its support for it. The submitted 2019 National Expenditure Program amounts to 3.757 trillion pesos, or 19.3% of the country's projected gross domestic product for next year. Senate leaders strongly urged the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, or MMDA, to recall and suspend the driver-only car ban on EDSA. In a resolution issued on the first day of the new rules dry run, the Senate leaders call on the MMDA to conduct a public consultation and to study the ban first. The senators also call on the Metro Manila Council and the MMDA to provide for real solutions to Metro Manila traffic congestion. The ban sought to prohibit vehicles that only contain the driver inside along EDSA during rush hours. In response to the Senate resolution and to other critics, MMDA General Manager Jojo Garcia says anyone can question the rule in court and the MMDA will let the courts decide who is right. On the first day of the dry run, MMDA apprehended more than 3,000 vehicles. The Metro Manila Council approved the measure to reduce traffic congestion in the capital region on August 7. Senator Grace Poe earlier cautioned the MMDA against the hasty implementation of the scheme. Senator Laila De Lima also warns traffic officials of passengers for hire that may take advantage of the policy. Google continues to collect a user's location data even if the user has turned off the location history setting on their mobile device. The data privacy issue affects both iOS and Android platforms. The issue roots from Google's location history setting, which can be turned on and off depending on the user's preference. Turning off the setting only stops Google from collecting location data it uses to build a timeline of where a user has been. Even with the setting turned off, Google is able to collect location data via other Google apps and services such as Google Maps, Search, and weather updates. Google takes a snapshot of time and location every time a user opens Google Maps or performs a search. Google still tracks the user even if they have location tracking turned off. Google explicitly asks for permission to have location tracking turned on for an app if needed, but having a setting that's labeled location history is problematic as it could be perceived as a universal switch to turn off tracking. The issue concerning Google's location tracking settings is the latest in a continuing series of data privacy matters facing many tech companies, including tech giants Google and Facebook. The NBA grants Jordan Clarkson a special one-time exception to see action for the Philippines in the 2018 Asian Games in Indonesia. The NBA initially turned down the country's request for the Cleveland Cavaliers guard to play, citing an agreement with FIBA that stipulates that their players can only participate in the Olympics, FIBA Basketball World Cup, and Continental Cup competitions. But the NBA backtracked on its decision, saying the rule wasn't properly communicated. The same exemption was granted to Chinese NBA players Zhao Qi of the Houston Rockets and Ding Yan-Yu Hang of the Dallas Mavericks. Clarkson will also serve as the Philippine flag bearer during the opening ceremonies on Saturday.